On today's episode of the Yaesu The Radio Show podcast, we're going to be talking about the FTM-150 and the FTM-510D, and more in particular, like what the ASP is part of it, and also a new accessory coming out that you can use with that FTM-150 and FTM-5D that has been requested for quite a while to make your base station operation better. That's for today, Friday, August 8th, on the Yaesu The Radio Show podcast. And welcome everybody to the Yaesu The Radio Show podcast. I'm your host, John Crook. Thank you very much for going ahead and joining me today on this episode of the podcast. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we are coming off of this off of the episode of the podcast here, off of doing a presentation last night with Coffee and Ham Radios. They are a great group that invite me on there for Yaesu numerous times on there. And last night was no different. They invited us on there to kind of talk about our 4 mobiles, 2 of which we're going to talk about today, that have recently been released, which actually deal with the aspects of what the ASP is all about, the advanced digital signal processing feature of those radios. So we figured, you know what? A lot of questions were kind of coming into the chat yesterday. I had some people on their show, I should say. And I had a lot of people that went and said, sent me emails saying, John, do you got a demo? Do you got something on there? I kind of think maybe this is all smoke and mirrors. Dive into a little bit more about how this impacts the 510, the 150. So we thought, you know what? We did the podcast or the show last night with them. Let's do the podcast. Let's talk about that today. In addition, the second half of the show is going to be about a little new accessory, which is really going to go ahead and make your base station operation using the 510 and the 150 a lot more interesting, a lot more fun is what we'll put it that way. So we'll talk about that at the end of the second half, towards the end of the show today. However, before we go ahead and get in today's show, let's go ahead and talk about, John, where can I get information on Yaesu products? Where can I find about dealers? Where can I get brochures? Where can I get all this information? And that's, of course, at our Yaesu.com website. That's right. Head on over to Yaesu.com, www.yaesu.com, and then you'll see everything you need to there. Not only amateur radio, but aviation radio, marine, everything you need to do. Need to contact us. Owner's Corner. You want to register your product saying, hey, I'm a Yaesu customer. I want to be notified for updates, those kind of things like that. Want to get Wires X information. Want to get those brochures. And not only, once again, just the United States and just about amateur, but all 3 divisions of Yaesu, as well as the international options. You can go ahead and click up at the upper right-hand corner to be taken to the Yaesu UK website, the Yaesu Japan website. Everything in your one-stop shopping place on there. And always great information that's on there. Head on over to Yaesu.com and check it out today. Alrighty, as we said today, we're going to kind of dive in a little bit into the 510 and the 150. Now, I know we've talked about this before. I know we've talked about, we've done other episodes, we've done a live thing, like what is the difference between the two. But it's a good time to actually go ahead and review these things, because we're kind of coming towards the end of the summer. And lots of times we know people want to get another rig, another radio, something to kind of supplement their thing. And with September being only a couple weeks away, it's also one of those deals and situations where people are saying, hey, John, September's National Preparedness Month. I'm an M-Commer, these kind of things like that. What kind of specials do we have going on? And these 2 great radios will really fit that bill there. So without further ado, let's jump in right away and talk about the FTM-510. Now, the FTM-510, what is different? Why I already have a 500. Why would I want to go ahead and get a 510? Well, that's a good answer. That's a good question, one that should be asked. But the 510 improves on things that the 500 did well, but the 510 does even better. So first of all, the FTM-510D, it comes in 2 different versions. It comes in the 510D, or it comes in the 510D with ASP. That's what kind of we really want to talk about, which is the signal processing unit. So the ASP, which is Advanced Digital Signal Processing Unit, or some people say Audio Signal Processing Unit. And really what it does is it really leverages this radio to not only be a digital mobile radio, but to be an analog mobile radio on there. A lot of people love the 500. I got the 500 right away out of the chute, obviously, not just because I'm a Yaesu, but because I went along and I said, hey, I really like the looks of this radio. It's really designed with a lot of mobile operation thought and process behind it. It's not an A and a B side anymore. It's a main and a sub. It has the giant dial on the front, so when I need to change channels, tune the VFO, I can do that right from the front of the radio. And it's got even like a little clicky kind of feeling, so every time you turn the knob, you kind of get a little slight click feeling on there. The volume knobs, volume knob in the upper left corner, volume knob in the lower left corner, the function knob on the right hand side in the upper right corner, the sub band changing knob on there. It's really great because these are fixed buttons and a fixed layout and easy to use. Not to also mention it's a touch screen on there. And the head has not only the speaker in it, but it also has the microphone in it. So when I'm actually traveling with this radio, I can actually put the head of the radio right up in the front of there, get the Yaesu extension cable for it, and then put that underneath my seat, hide it wherever I need to. When I travel, I can actually throw it in I actually have like a little case that I carry for my radios when I travel in the rental car. I could throw it in the back, plug into the power source there. Everything that I need, this radio has on there. But one of the features, like I said, it has in there is the ASP. Now, the ASP is really kind of an interesting concept when we take a look at what it does. So, if you are an HF user, hands down, you know what DSP can do. Okay? Hands down. Because that digital signal processing, especially when applied to audio, cleans up that signal. Single sideband. Hands down, if you get a great single sideband signal in there, not a problem whatsoever. But sometimes single sideband on HF can be noisy, can have a little bit of like hiss or noise on that analog signal, and it gets to you, right? It can get to you, and you're like, man, I hear the signal, I see the signal, especially if you're using our HF product line with our SDR. You see that signal on there, but you can't quite pull that audio out of it. Alrighty. And it's great to see a signal, but you really got to be able to hear the signal. So when you can apply DSP technology to that signal, you cut away, you put it into a filter, digital filter. I'm talking, as I said last night, even on the show with the Coffee and Ham Radio guys, I'm talking at like the 10,000 foot level. We're talking here just to kind of give you a broader aspect of things. So you're applying that, you're smoothing it out, you're applying filtering to it to take off that hiss, to take off that scratchiness. You may have a great strong signal even, but there's still going to be that little bit on there where you want to bump up the signal. And that's what we applied to the 510. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, John, with the 500, you had the SDX feature, right? Like, isn't that what it is? No, it's not. The SDS feature, S-DX feature, which is on the top button on there, really took and increased your receiver sensitivity when that was turned on for the signal. For FM signals, too, I want to clarify, not really impacting digital at all. Digital is data, right? It's ones and zeros. It's a data stream. You can't really improve the data stream on there. But with FM, you can increase and improve that receiver signal on there. And that's what the SDX did. It kind of increased that receiver sensitivity on there. Now, it's not squelch. It's not squelch. People are like, oh, it's just a squelch setting. No, it's not. Squelch is different. All right, squelch is a separate setting on there. But that's what the SDX feature did. But with the 500, it was kind of that same principle I just talked about when using a single sideband signal, which is great. I could pull that signal in better, but if it's still too hashy, too noisy, it doesn't make good sense. Why would I want to go ahead and continue to listen to that? And we agreed. We agreed 110%. Now, the big difference is going to be is usually DSP is usually applied to single sideband. It isn't really applied to FM. Or if it is, it's not really that readily available. Not a lot of people are doing it. And that's where we said we should improve this FM signal. And who was demanding the improvement of the FM signal was the customers. The reason they said, hey, John, I do FM simplex. I like talking on digital. I like talking on my digital repeater. But guess what? I also like talking simplex. And me as a person that does a lot of traveling, I had to agree with them. I said, you know what? This makes perfect sense. You're on the road. You want to listen to 5.2. People are doing analog on 5.2. They're not doing digital. So I need to be able to pull in that signal better. So that's where the 510 said, we're going to do a little bit of a redesign. We're going to add this option into it down there. And we did make some other improvements on there. But we said, let's improve this SDX function for your analog users. Let's also add the ability to have the SPU1 installed into there, which gives it the ASP feature. Now what you can do is not only can you push that SDX button to increase receiver sensitivity, push it again to activate the advanced signal processing feature on there, but you can also turn it into an auto mode now that will monitor your signal strength and audio strength to know if it needs to engage or disengage that functionality on there. So that's what the biggest improvement of the 510 was. Now, of course, the 510 has APRS in there, has, once again, Yaesu System Fusion digital voice on there, but it is also a dual band, dual receive mobile, which allows you to A, do cross band repeating, and B, also allows you to do full duplex operation. So it allows you to transmit on VHF while listening to UHF at the same time, or vice versa, for the aspects of satellite operation on there. So with this radio, yes, is it different? Yes, is it not different? It's kind of the whole thing on there, but it really is step up that improvement. Now, right away, people are going to ask, well, John, I have a 500. Can I just plug in this SPU1 into there? No, it does not. And that's where it kind of came into play, where a lot of people are saying, well, really, that's the only difference. Why'd you change the model number? Why'd you release it? Well, we had to make changes internally to the FTM-500 to be able to facilitate the ASP functionality in there. So therefore, redesign, re-radio. It's not the same radio as the 500. We had to go and get it remodeled, recertified, and that is why it's the FTM-510. So if you have the FTM-500, you cannot add on the ASP board. You do have the SDX function on there, but you don't have it on there. But with the 510, you can come in two different varieties of the 510. You can actually come in the option that has it built in. So if you're looking online, you're looking at the dealers, you're trying to figure out, okay, there's two FTM-510s on there, and there's a different pricing. What the heck is going on? Well, if you see the words ASP behind it, that means you already have the SPU1 board installed into the radio already. If you have or purchased a one that's less expensive, that is not the ASP version, you do not have the audio processing board in there, and you would need to purchase it as an aftermarket accessory. So those are the two big differences within the 510. Once again, you're probably going to see FTM-510D, ASP, or FTM-510D, and then no ASP on there. Now, another thing that a lot of people have gotten wrong with this radio, and we really want to clear up, is that each time that a radio comes out, you'll see a letter behind the radio. And in this case, a lot of people are thinking it's the FTM-510D RASP or the FTM-510DR. The R just signifies that it's an American or North America market radio. So it's going to be able to take care of, once again, the United States, Canada, that kind of thing. That's what the R means. If you get one from Europe, it's going to be an E. If you get one from other parts of the country, they're going to have a different letter on there. So realistically, the biggest thing you want to look for is if it has the option of the ASP in the model number. If it does, great. Guess what? You got the digital signal processing board in there. If you do not have the ASP version, you just have the FTM-510D R or FTM-510D, that does not have the ASP board in there because it doesn't say ASP. You would have to add it on a little bit later. Now, being that that's what the 510 is, let's talk now about the 150. So the FTM-150 is kind of like a little brother and sister, a little counterpart to the 510. What's the big difference? Well, first of all, the two big glaring differences are going to be it does not do Yaesu System Fusion, C4FM, or high-quality digital voice, the same type of technology that is used by public safety people, C4FM and FDMA. The FTM-150 does not have it in the radio there. In addition, it does not have APRS or a GPS. It does not have it in there. That's going to be in the 510 model. The 150 is a very rich featured, is what I will say on there, dual band, dual display, dual receiver, FM only radio. Now, why did I stress dual band, dual display, dual receiver? Because dual band is VHF and UHF. Dual receiver means that there's a left side and a right side, or a main and a sub if you want to, and dual receiver aspect of it with full duplex means that you can do crossband repeat with this radio, as well as going ahead and able to be doing full duplex. So once again, satellite operation is just one example of this radio's feature set on there. Now, much like the 510, this comes in two different versions. There's the FTM-150R, and then for the US, for the North America market, and the FTM-150R ASP. Now, once again, R means it's a North America model. Europe is going to be E, and so on and so forth. But once again, you have an ASP version and a non-ASP version. What is the difference? Well, the ASP version has the SPU-1 already installed into the radio. So not only are you going to be able to get the SDX function, which is that receiver sensitivity improvement when you push it, but you're also going to be able to get the ASP functionality when you push it and activate ASP. Now, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you're going to go ahead and see a picture of that on there, and you'll see in the bottom there it says ASP. When you see it says ASP, that's when you know that the ASP functionality is active and you're receiving it on there. If you don't see the ASP on there and you just see it will say S for like signal meter, then you know that your ASP functionality is not currently turned on and active. Now, why would we release this radio? What's the big deal on it? Well, we know that some people do not want to do digital. We know that there are analog users out there. We know that there are people who want a radio that fits this operational stance. What do you mean by operational stance? Well, mission critical purposes. Let's leave that as an example. Well, what do you mean, John? Well, here's what I mean. The DR2X, right? It's a dual band, dual display, dual receiver type of repeater on there. You can set up the A side of the repeater to do your normal repeat frequencies. And then you can set up the B side of that to be able to receive on a different frequency. So you can have it set up that, let's say the A side is VHF for your repeater frequency. You can set up that B side to be VHF or UHF. But in this case, now what you do with your DR2X, you take that B side and you receive on UHF, force it to transmit out on the A side, which is VHF. Now you take a great radio like this, which is the 150. You put that into crossband repeat mode. So you put that out somewhere else, right? Some area you need coverage. And you receive on the VHF input of the repeater on the FTM-150, which then crosses over to the UHF transmit frequency, which gets transmitted to the B side of the DR2X, and then that will go out there. So now what you did is you created what we call a remote receive site. And now you change the input tone on that VHF frequency. So let's say your repeater normally is 147.000, and you're going to go plus 600. And the repeater receives and transmits on a tone of 100 hertz, 100.0 hertz. Okay, that's what you normally program your repeater. Hey, how you doing? And blah, 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 blah. Now, let's say you have a special event. Let's say you have a situation or whatever that you need to go ahead and add on a coverage area that the radio just, you can't get it with a handheld from that area, but you can get into the repeater from a mobile. So now what you can go ahead and do in this case is you can go ahead and say, okay, wait a minute here. Here's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this mobile here and we're going to put it on the receive. So we're going to put it on 147.600 and I'm going to put a DCS tone in this one because that way it prevents falsing. I'm going to put a DCS tone of, let's say 411. And now I'm going to go on the UHF side, the other side of radio, and I'm going to set that as the simplex frequency that I need to talk into the repeater on. So now what you do is you have this remote receive site. Now what does the user do? The user, I program my radio to be channel 1, 147.000, positive 600 offset with a receive and transmit tone of 100 hertz. But now I take channel 2 And I'm going to program 147.600, and I'm going to program it that it transmits DCS 411 but receives CTCSS 100. What do I do as a user? Well, I know if I'm in range of the repeater or I'm in this certain range, I use channel 1, but as I go towards maybe the area where this is having issues, then I go to channel 2. Now I'm going to hit this device and then hit the repeater. So that's one of the things that the people wanted to do, in, of course, addition to satellite operation, full duplex operation. But this is something that this radio can do for you. Now let's go back to that ASP real quick, that advanced digital signal processing on there. With the ASP in place, it really, 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 really can improve your analog signal. And what I'm going to do here is those on YouTube land, you should be able to hear it. Definitely on the audio side here, you're going to hear that change, that in the way that ASP cleans up that signal. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Hobby, and hopefully study and upgrade and get your license upgraded to general. That'll be really cool. And welcome to Catalina Repeater Amateur Association, CARA. This is KP6 PWK back then.
Now, obviously, if you're listening, you heard how there was that hiss, that kind of little shh that you have with an analog signal there, because it wasn't getting full quieting from the repeater. It was purposely set up to listen to the net at the Catalina repeater in our office. So first of all, thank you to whoever was on the Catalina repeater that day doing the net. Thank you for letting us go ahead, and you gave us a great demonstration. You didn't even know it. But as you heard, it had that shh in the background, and then all of a sudden it just boom. It went no background noise, and the signal was clear. That signal was there. That is a great example of the ASP technology on there. It cleans it up on there. Now, one of the things I'm going to caution you, I should say, because we get the question that I should caution. Remember, if the signal is too strong, if the audio level is too strong, when you apply digital processing to it, you may have it cut out a little bit. You may have a little issues on there. So this is why we tell people, if you are using the ASP on there and it sounds like it's a little scratchy, well, not even scratchy, I would say more like digitally, more underground, something like that, or it cuts out. The signal might be too much for the ASP. Remember, to really take advantage of digital signal processing, you don't want a strong signal and you don't want strong audio. Because once you try to process it, it's such a strong signal, strong audio, that processing may just make it worse, right? Digital signal processing, audio signal processing tends to clean up the signal to get it to the best quality. A good example that I gave is like rock polishing, right? You go and you pick up a rock, alrighty, and if you pick up that rock and it's kind of dirty, kind of dusty, not very shiny, you put it in a rock tumbler. When you pull it out, that rock is going to be shiny, perfect, beautiful on there. That's what ASP does. That's what the ASP is doing. It's taking that weak signal, it's taking that weak audio, it's really polishing it up, really trying to clean it up. So if I have a rock that's polished, right? If I have a perfect rock that's polished, shiny, and everything, I put it in a rock polisher, is it going to do anything? No, it may actually make it worse looking because it's going to over polish it. Same thing with this audio. And that's kind of a good example of what I try to give people in regards to how ASP works and that functionality on there. Now, we've talked about ASP. We talked about the FTM-150. We talked about the FTM-510. We're going to talk about something really cool accessory-wise that's going to be released for this radio that I think more people are going to go and be able to get and want to do that. But before we do that, let's take a look at some great deals and promotions. That's right. The Yaesu Field Gear promotion is going from August 1st all the way here through September 30th, 2025, and it's going to offer you some great deals on some great radios. Hey, looking for a new HF rig of some sorts? Now's the time to check out the FT-710 AES and field version, where we as Yaesu are giving you a $120 instant coupon through our authorized dealers. That's right. Go on over to our authorized Yaesu dealers, and they're going to take $120 instantly off the price of that FT-710 for you. We talked about the 510 today. Whether you choose the ASP or the non-ASP version, you're going to get a $100 instant coupon from Yaesu through our dealers. Looking at that FTM-150 ASP or non-ASP version, you're going to take $30 instant coupon off that radio. Hey, we didn't talk about it, but the the FT-3185, 85-watt VHF, built like a brick house mobile, comes with ASP also, or non-ASP version. You're going to take $30 off that one. Looking for a new handheld? We got $40 off the FT-5D. We got $20 off the FT-70D. And because we know that people want to stay in communication, they want a great analog radio to have as a spare, a backup, throw it in your Go Kit, whatever, we're offering $30 off on the submersible VX6R, a rough and tough radio that's VHF, UHF, and 1.5 watts on 220, or the tried and true FT60R. This radio's been out there for decades. It's a great radio. You know what? One of our only line of actual handhelds that you can use the battery pack on there and get a full 5 watts on there. That's great. That's an amazing radio out there, offering a $20 instant coupon on there. Head on over to your favorite authorized Yaesu retailers. I got to stress authorized. These are the ones we're giving the discount to as our authorized dealers. Head on over there, look online, reach out to them, contact them today for these great Yaesu deals. Alrighty, the moment of truth, the moment of what are we talking about? Well, we'll start off with some people want to use a radio in their house. And I have to agree with these people that if I want to use a radio in the house, I don't want to use the mobile microphone. Mobile microphones are great for a mobile environment, right? We talk on the mobile microphone. But when I'm at home, when I'm not doing my thing, right? When I'm not in the car, whatever, I want to be able to use a desktop microphone, right? We use desktop microphones. I'm using a desktop microphone here, right, for the podcast. Why would I not want to be able to use a desktop microphone for my radios? Now, for the longest time, we've made desktop microphones for our HF radios. And right now, in production, we have 4 amazing desktop microphones for HF radios. We have the amazing M70 microphone, a standard great microphone for HF radios on there. Entry-level kind of line on there. Perfect, said, done on there. I want a desktop microphone. That's it. We have the M90. Now, the M90, that's a really cool design because the M90 comes in 2 different flavors. It comes in a desktop microphone version, which is the M90D as in David, or it comes in the stand version. So if you have a stand, like I'm kind of going to show you here, like a stand for like your, like some people have a, you know, kind of like a boom microphone, almost like it's going to be for a disc jockey or something like that on there. You can actually come with the M90 in that version, and that M90 in that version on there allows you to create like it as a stand, so you actually have the boom microphone on there. That's the M90. Now we have the M100, that M100 series, that is getting into where now you got low cut filters, now you got high cut filters. It's a really step up for desktop microphone with your HF radios. And then we have the tried and true amazing M1 microphone. Now that thing is a beautiful microphone. We use it for our podcast and some of our interviews. Why? Because it actually has a graphic equalizer built into that microphone. And it also has XLR output. Now, some people will be like, well, I don't have a radio that has XLR output. No, but we know people that have microphones that have soundboards and stuff that they want an XLR output out of a microphone that they can integrate into their HF radios or whatever else they may be using it for. And guess what? The M1 has that on there. But one of the things, the biggest time that people have had is they said, John, the microphone plug is an 8-pin. It's not a 6-pin. how's it going to work? It's there. It's audio audio impedance and everything like that. God, I wish Yaesu would get it together and make a microphone, desktop microphone for mobile radios. Well, we've heard your cries, and here's the answer. Coming out end of August is going to be the SCU-67. This is an 8-pin to 6-pin microphone connector conversion cable that is used for the M70, the M90, the M100, or the M1 to be used on the FTM-510D or the FTM-150. That's right, to be used on either the 510 or the 150 with our current production HF microphones on there, the desktop microphone. So once again, the current production M70 HF desktop microphone, the M90 desktop microphone, the M100 or the M1 can be used now on the FTM-510D and the FTM-150. Great device, great addition to it. A lot of people have been saying, hey, I want to do this. Once again, I'm in that same boat. I don't want to use a hand microphone when I'm at home. I would love to be able to use a desktop microphone, and now this answers it. So now you can use the 510 or the 150 at home, talking on VHF, UHF, whatever, Fusion if you got the 510. Now, hey, I want to go ahead and I want to talk on HF. No sense in pulling out, having multiple microphones. Unplug it, plug that into the front of the radio, and boom, you are good to go. Now, I know a lot of people have said, well, this isn't some revelation, John, or whatever, but actually for a lot of people that have always asked, can you do something for a desktop microphone? Do you have one? And for the longest time, we said, no, they're not going to work. There's not an adapter, not everything. Here we are. We have this adapter now available for it. So keep a look towards the end of August here. Check out your authorized Yaesu dealers. Go ahead and saying, hey, John, or hey, whoever. John sent me to you looking for the SCU-67. Like I said, they're coming in right now. They should be out in the dealer's hands by the end of August is what we're going ahead and shooting for right now. But it's a great accessory if you got one of our HF desktop microphones, want to use it on that 510 or that 150 on there. So that's for today's episode of the podcast. I hope it really answered some questions. Thank you for the people that did submit the questions after watching the show that we did last night with Coffee and Ham Radios on their YouTube channel. Thank you for watching us. If you watch us on our YouTube channel, we do appreciate it. If you are coming to Huntsville Ham Fest, we will see you there next week. So therefore, it's not going to go ahead and be any podcast next week because we're going to be already there setting up and stuff like that. So no podcast next week. We're going to take a little bit of a vacation, but we will return the following week with more great information. Once again, if you ever have ideas for the show, for the podcast, whatever, need to contact us in general, head on over to the Yaesu.com website, click on the contact us. If it's going to be about the podcast in the subject, put in podcast, send that to the general question area. We'll try to see what the information is, and we'll try to go from there. So until then, everybody, I want everybody to take care, stay safe, and we'll catch you on down the log.